In this video, I'm going to show you how to install a shower base and how to hook up the drain to the main plumbing. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Josh. This channel is all about building your own house, saving a ton of money. So be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you get a notification every time I release a new video, and hammer that like button for me. That's all I ask in return for making this video. So we got a lot of work ahead of us, so let's get started. The first step to this process is dry fitting the shower base into where it's going to be installed. What I'm now going to do is take a carpenter's pencil and mark the floor here, so that way I know exactly where I need to drill out in order to install the drain. I'm now just going to lift the shower base up out of the way so we can get to the floor to drill out the hole. I now need to drill a hole in the floor in order to accommodate for this drain. And when it comes to picking out the hole saw size, you do not want to measure just the part where the pipe's coming down through. You want to measure back here on the shower drain to where it's a little wider. And you can check your shower drain. It might be way different than this one, but most of them are a little wider here, and that's what's going to protrude through the floor. So we take a measurement here. It looks like if we use a hole saw that's at least 4 inches, we should be fine. So let's go ahead and drill that hole out. Now, as you can see, there's plenty of room for that drain to go right through the floor. I took the shower pan out of the bathroom and set it up on these sawhorses so you can easily see what's going on. So I'm going to show you the parts to a drain. If you unscrew the top part of this, you're going to have the body of the drain, which is this longer plastic piece. And then you're going to have a paper gasket. And then you're going to have what's called a rubber gasket. So that's usually the parts that come with these shower drains. And then obviously you'll have the top part of the drain that screws down into the body. And there's 2 ways you can install this drain onto the shower pan or shower base. Either term's fine. You can use either 100% silicone caulk, or you can use plumber's putty. Now, it's recommended that you use plumber's putty, but I have used silicone caulk before and have had success. But the only problem with the silicone that I've found is if for whatever reason you got to remove this drain later, this almost acts as an adhesive, so it can be problematic to remove it if it does leak for whatever reason. So I'm going to show you how to do it the best way, and that's with plumber's putty. I'm going to first begin by cleaning the shower base hole that's for the drain, and also I'm going to clean the drain itself from the top of the body, and also I'm going to clean this part of the shower drain too that screws down into the body. You don't want dust anywhere that's going to have a connection. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take what's called plumber's putty. If you've never used this stuff before, it's more or less like a hard Play-Doh. So I go ahead and get yourself an adequate amount out of the container. And you first want to work it in your hands and make it pliable because it's semi-stiff when it first comes out. After you got it worked up and it's really pliable, we're now going to just kind of roll it out and make more or less like a heavy rope out of it. Now take the top part of the shower drain that's going to be sitting down in the shower base, and we're going to go ahead and take this plumber's putty and just work it and pack it around the top part of the lip. I'm now going to take this and place it right down into the shower base, and we're going to kind of work it down into the base. Now I'm going to double check, make sure it looks pretty center. And now we got to go underneath, and we're going to use our rubber ring and paper gasket below. The first gasket to go over the drain is the rubber gasket. So you're going to put that on nice and tight. And then you put the paper gasket on next. And the reason why I use a paper gasket is this acts as a lubricant for the body. So while you're turning it, it doesn't catch that rubber and it won't let you tighten it down very well. So with this gasket, it just helps give it a little lubricant effect. So now we're just going to go ahead and just start tightening the body onto the drain. After that's hand tightened all the way, now you can remove all this excess plumber's putty from the top of the drain. And if you need to purchase any of this product that you see used in this video, check out my Amazon store. The link is in the description below, and all the products that I use can be found there. And make sure you clean that up really well and get all that leftover debris out of the way. And always double check to make sure the drain is a little lower than the shower base. So if it's any higher, it's going to hold water on the shower base. But if it's lower than this cutout, then it's going to drain right into that drain. That's where we want it to go. And now take that leftover plumber's putty, and we're going to keep this for a later date for when we install another drain. So I'm going to put it right back into the container. And now the drain's installed on the shower base. Let's go install this thing. Because the shower pan has to be placed in a bed of mortar, I'm going to install 30 weight felt paper on the floor to act as a vapor barrier so the floor doesn't soak up all the moisture out of that mortar. And also, you don't have to use 30 weight, you can also use 15 weight felt paper, as long as there's a layer of something between the subfloor and the mortar bed. Staples or cap nails can be used to secure the felt paper to the floor, and also be sure to take a utility knife and cut out the felt paper for the drain. Before I mix up the mortar for the mud pan, I need to first level up the shower pan. And in order to level it up, I got to put shims on the floor before I set the shower pan. So that can be challenging. So I got a trick that will work well for you. So we need to find where each corner is going to hit on the floor. So in order to do that, you can measure over off the corners and make a mark on the floor that corresponds with the corner to where this corner leg's going to hit. But I found a simpler way. You can take just an old sample of paint. Any paint will work fine, it doesn't matter, but just take it and place it just a little bit on the legs, like so. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a little bit on the corner legs. Now that the shower pan is dry fit to where it's going to be setting, the drain's lining up well and it's tight against the studs. Now I'm going to take a level. I got a 4-foot level and I also got a 2-foot level. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this back here, and the back looks nice and level. So I know from corner to corner back here we're good. So I'm going to take my 2-foot level, and the reason why I got to use a 2-foot level on these sides because there's a little lip on the end here, so the 4-foot level wouldn't work. So we're going to check these sides. It looks like the back end needs to come up an 1/8 inch or so on each corner. And it must have been a low joist there, a low floor joist, which is fine. So now we're going to lift up this shower base, and then we're going to go ahead and shim it into place. Now, as you can see, there are white marks in each corner where each leg was setting. So now I know exactly where I got to put my shims in order to shim it up level. And what I'm going to do now is just take what's called liquid nails and just put a little bit on these shims so they stay a little tacky. And they'll stick right on the floor so they don't shift around when you're trying to set the shower pan back into place. You do not have to use liquid nails, you can also use silicone. Now I'm going to dry fit it again to make sure it's setting exactly where we need those shims to be setting. I'm now going to double check to make sure it's setting nice and level. That side looks good. This side looks good. I'm now going to take a pencil and mark each stud around the whole shower base. So that way when I go to set it back into that mortar bed, it's going to be lined up with those lines so I know I'm setting correctly and it's all level. At this point, I'm going to take a drill with an 1/8 inch drill bit and drill from the shower base lip and into the stud. So that way it anchors the shower base to where it is setting now. And also, your shower base may have came with clips to where you don't drill the lip at all. So in that case, you're just going to have to install the clips at a later date. And they usually just kind of clip over from the stud over the shower base to hold it into place. So I'm now going to do that. In order to mix the mortar up for the mortar bed, I got type S cement here with a 1/2 inch drill and a mixing blade, some clean water and some clean sand. We're going to mix this up in a 3-to-1 ratio. So we're going to put 3 scoops of sand into the 5-gallon bucket, and that's going to be 1 part cement. So that's the ratio to have a 3-to-1 mix, but I'm actually just going to go ahead and double this because there's plenty of room in this 5-gallon bucket. You could also use a mixing tub and hoe to mix up the mixture as well. All right, so we want to keep adding water and mixing until we have a consistency that's like peanut butter, but on the dry side. You don't want this super wet to where it's runny. You want it relatively dry. So that's about right, what you see there. The shower base I'm installing is 5 foot by 34 inches, and it's going to take 2 5-gallon buckets worth, so I had to mix up another one to get all the mortar I'm going to need for the bed. I'm now going to take this bucket of mortar and just pour it right onto the floor, and then we're going to level it out to give us about 1 inch to a 1/2 inch bed across the whole area where the shower pan is going to be laying.
After I dump it on the floor, I use what's called a 14-inch finish trowel to smooth it out. But if you don't have a finish trowel, you can just use a putty knife to just roughly get it where you need it.
Now that I got it sitting down on the mortar bed, I'm going to shift it into place until the marks I made across all the studs are all lined up well. Then I'm going to anchor it. I'm now going to use drywall screws to anchor it to the studs.
In order to countersink the screw head, I use a number 2 Phillips bit and drive it into the hole first, and then I use that same number 2 Phillips bit to drive the drywall screw.
Just a word of advice, I'd recommend anchoring the back wall first, because I'll pull that shower pan all the way back tight before you do the side walls, because if it's out just a little bit and you didn't notice it and you anchor the sides first, it's going to be difficult to get it back to where it should be without removing the side screws. I'm now going to take my finish trowel and just clean off the edges of the shower base and get that mortar out of the way so that way it doesn't sit up and harden. And now I won't put any weight on this shower base as far as me standing on it for at least 24 hours. So now let's go underneath the house and hook up the plumbing. I'm here below the shower base, and that is the drain that is coming down from the shower pan. And as you can see, I have a trap that's installed, and all of this is 2-inch pipe, and it's going to tie into this main drain where this 3-inch pipe is. So I already have all that hooked up. So now I'm going to show you how to make the connection from the trap up to the drain. The trap that I just showed you was all PVC cemented together, so you could not get down into this trap if you had to at a later date. So if you get one with a union on it, you can unscrew it right here and then get down into that trap in case you drop a ring down the drain, and then you can retrieve it from the trap if that happens. And also, it's a little more forgiving, so you can get that angle going to your drain easier because you can simply just put this together and then adjust this to where you need it. Of course, you would have to use Teff tape here, but that's just another option in case you didn't want to PVC cement everything together. First thing I'm going to do is remove this test plug. This was when I did the hydrostatic testing. So we got that out of the way. And now I'm going to clean the burrs off around the edge of this pipe and around on the inside of the pipe as well. I'm now going to place this coupling and dry fit it over the end of the pipe. Now I'm going to get a measurement from up to where the pipe's going to go inside the pipe, right into where it stops right there, to down inside this coupling. Looks like we need about 3 1/4 inch pipe. So now before I glue anything together, I'm going to take this coupling off and put it on the piece we just cut. And again, no glue, no primer. Now we're going to flex it all down and try to get it to fit to make sure everything's good to go first. All right, and as you can see, everything will fit together fine. Now it's time to glue it all together. To make the joint, I'm first going to take what's called primer, and this is purple, and they also make a clear, but I have to use purple because the inspector has to see it was primed. So I'm going to put some around each joint. So on this one, up in here, and on the coupling that we made. I got everything primed, and I already glued the coupling to the little pipe on the ground because it's easier to do things like that before you get up in here. So now I'm going to glue these 2 joints and push it all together.
I usually like to use medium or heavy duty PVC cement.
Now you want to push it together and twist it at the same time. Now you got to hold pressure on it until it sets up, usually about 20-30 seconds. The next step to building this tiled shower is to install cement board on these walls. And if you want to learn how to do it and see me do it on these walls, check out this video. It'll help you out.